Good morning. I'm Angeline Hartman. I'm the Director of Communications at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And we're here today to talk about new efforts in an unsolved infant abduction case. I will give you a brief overview of the case, and you will hear from the FBI. Acting Special Agent in Charge, Mr. Mashrefi, is here. And then you will hear from family members, and then we'll open it up for questions. But before we get started, where is Christy Hawthorne? I want to say a big thank you to the Oceanside Historical Society and Christy Hawthorne. Thank you so much for having us in your beautiful space. We appreciate you. On behalf of the National Center and the FBI, we want to thank you all for being here today. It is important because we need your help to bring attention in this case. We know that the answers are out there. It has been more than 4 decades since this crime happened. But as you all know, these days we are seeing more and more unsolved cases being solved, even after decades. So today we're here to talk about Kevin Art Verville Jr. He was born at Camp Pendleton, and he was 17 days old when he was abducted. That was July 1st, 1980. This Saturday is Kevin Jr.'s 45th birthday. He is still missing, and at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, we strongly believe that Kevin Jr. is still out there, alive, and may not know his real identity. So today, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is releasing a brand new age progression image. You can see it right here. This is what Kevin Verville Jr. Might look like today. And this is, these are 2 images of his abductor. These were created by the FBI back in 1980. So again, we believe that there is a strong possibility that Kevin Verville Jr. is out there. He may not know his real identity, and we have worked with many families at the National Center in very similar situations where their babies were kidnapped and then they were found alive years later, even decades later. So we know this can happen. But as far as what happened to Kevin Verville Jr., I'm going to give you some background from 1980. So Kevin Jr.'s parents lived at Sterling Homes. This was an off-site military housing complex for families, for Camp Pendleton families. And this couple, they were approached by an unknown woman, and she was posing as a social worker. And at some point, she convinced the couple that she needed to bring the baby to her office, right? And so she convinces mom to get in the car with her. She's going to take her to the office. And along the way, the woman says that they're going to pick up another mother who will also be part of this program. So they stop in rural San Diego County, about 8 miles away from here. And the woman asked the mom to get out of the car and knock on the door of this other mother. Kevin Verville Jr.'s mother steps out of the car to knock on the door, and the woman takes off. That was July 1st, 1980. Now, while there was a large search for Kevin Verville Jr. back in 1980, a lot of efforts, he was never found. And that woman, who at the time called herself Sheila, she was never identified. So we are asking everybody to take a good look at these images and make sure that we get the word out. Now, this image was created by a forensic artist at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. He used family photos to pull this together, and it's important to know that this is a likeness. This is not what we're saying Kevin Verville Jr. looks like today. It's possible he looks something like this. So the intent is to spark recognition, and also just to get people talking about this case again after 4 decades. That's going to be the key to finding him. So right now, I'd like to bring up Acting Special Agent in Charge, Mr. Mashrefi, and we appreciate you being here.
Good morning. As mentioned, I'm Hutam Mashrefi. I'm the Acting Special Agent in Charge of the FBI Field Office here in San Diego. I wanted to thank Angeline and her team at NCMEC for their outstanding partnership and their work on this investigation. As mentioned, this was a case that the FBI in 1980 was investigating, and it was a major priority for us. And that stands true today as well. We had dozens of FBI agents and partners from local agencies assisting us in 1980 to locate Kevin Verville Jr., and that was our primary goal back then, and again, it stands true today. Although 45 years has passed, we remain committed to this case, and our ultimate goal is to reunite Kevin with his family and also hold that individual responsible that kidnapped Kevin from his family. In 1980, Kevin was less than a month old when he was taken from his mom here in Oceanside. At the time, the woman who identified herself as Sheila was described as being approximately 20 years old. She was described as being 5 foot 2 inches tall and 130 pounds. She was noted as having a small tattoo on the left hand between her web finger area, between her left thumb and her forefinger, as possibly a circle with a cross or a plus sign or something symbolizing that, a tattoo on her left hand. While the FBI continued to track down all the investigative leads over the years to identify Kevin's abductor and find him, we are here today because we need the public's help. We need your help to find answers. Kevin deserves answers. The Verville family deserves answers. And we need to hold the individual accountable for taking Kevin from his family. We're asking the public's help to find those answers today. No piece of information is too small to help us solve this case. We're asking you to take a good look at these photos, the age progression photo, and also the photos of what Sheila would potentially look like back in 1980. If you recognize these photos or the likeness of the individual you see up here, please contact the FBI. Kevin Verville Jr. could be anywhere. We're a connected world today more than we were 45 years ago. We have the power of social media. We have the capability of you folks to push this information out to the communities so that anyone who could potentially recognize Kevin or the perpetrator who took Kevin from his family can contact us and assist us in solving this case. The FBI continues to honor the $10,000 reward offered for the information that leads to locating Kevin, as well as the arrest and conviction of those responsible for his abduction. Again, if you recognize Kevin or have any information surrounding his abduction or the individual who took Kevin, please contact the FBI. You can submit your tips at 1-800-CALL-FBI or at tips.fbi.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mashrefi. At this time, I want to bring up Angelica Ramsey. She is the sister of Kevin Verville Jr.
Good morning. I would like to start with some gratitude. Thank you for the media for coming here today. We know that getting my brother's story out there is crucial to finding him, so thank you. I also want to say thank you to the FBI for your commitment on my brother's case. Thank you, Mr. Mashrefi, for being here today. I understand that cold cases are not easy to solve, especially after so much time has passed, and we appreciate your efforts. And last but not least, I want to say thank you to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and especially Angeline Hartman. You helped to make this press conference happen. Your artist created a beautiful age progression of my brother, and the National Center has put so much work into my brother's case, and my family will always be grateful. My mom wishes she could be here, but unfortunately she is unable to travel due to health reasons. My brother, Kevin Art Verville Jr., was my parents' first baby. Everyone in my family refers to him as Junior. He was born 45 years ago this Saturday on June 14th, 1980. 17 days after he was born, Junior was abducted. I never got to meet my brother. I was born 5 years later. Growing up, I remember when my mother first told me about him and that horrible day. Every time she talked about it, it was as if it just happened. She was so animated and in tears. Later in my life, I learned my parents lost touch with investigators not long after the abduction. The media stopped reporting on his case after a few months. My parents desperately wanted their baby back, but they were young and they didn't know what to do. In 2021, I decided to reach out to investigators to see if anything new had been discovered about Junior's case. Eventually, I was connected to an FBI agent, and then later with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. With this new age progression and the FBI reward, we have new hope that we can finally find Junior. He is loved and missed by so many, and I hope that we can find him very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Angelica. You okay? I'd like to bring up Kevin Verville Jr.'s dad. This is Kevin Verville Sr., and please understand that it's not easy for him to speak today, but he really wants to talk to you and share what's on his mind.
Something like this, it's hard to know where to start. So I think I'm gonna start by saying thank you for everybody involved who's trying to help and to find him. You don't know how much gratitude we have for that. Thank you. I wrote a little bit to try and help me with the speech, so I'll try not to read it directly, but I'll use it as notes. My son, Kevin Jr., was born on June 14th in 1980. He had newborn jaundice, which is, I understand, is quite common on babies. So he ended up staying in a hospital a few extra days. We lived in off-base housing, Sterling Homes, which is housing for Camp Pendleton, younger enlisted people, junior enlisted. After we got, within a couple days after bringing a junior home, a lady knocked on the door, posing as a social worker, saying that they had developed a new program for junior enlisted personnel with children or babies to help pay for diapers and milk and food and things like that. The way I was brought up, I was a little prideful and I didn't know if we should take that program or not. I called home, talked to my family. One of my brother-in-laws was an Air Force veteran. He said yes. He said at that time, he said, as junior enlisted, we were way underpaid to take care of our families properly. So he said, go ahead and sign up for it. So my wife and I at the time talked about it, and we decided we'd sign up for the program. I think it was the next day or the day after we went grocery shopping. We just got home from grocery shopping, starting to bring their food up, and that lady showed up again, and she says, "Oh, we have time to bring you down and weigh the baby, measure the baby, which is a requirement for the program, so you can get milk and diapers and stuff for the baby." And so Angelina and I thought, oh, that sounds good. So, but we're putting stuff away. She said, oh, I can bring your wife and the baby down to wait just a little ways, and we'll have her back shortly. And I said, okay. So I continued bringing the groceries up, putting away, and my wife and the baby Junior went with her. She appeared to be pregnant, and they pulled into another yard, and she told Angelina that she wasn't feeling really good. If she asked if she could go knock on the door, because you know how it is when you're pregnant. And Angelina started getting out of the car with the baby, and the lady said, oh, you're just going to the door, please leave the baby here, I'll watch it while you knock on the door. So she did. After she got out of the car, the lady took off. Of course, Angelina was from the Philippines and didn't know much about American culture and the car and license plates and stuff like that. So she looked at the back of the car, but she didn't know what to look for, anything, or whether the car had a plate on or not. She couldn't tell you because that wasn't her culture. And then after that, there was kind of questions on how could you let her go? How could you do this? How could she do that? And how come she got out of the car and left the baby? There was a lot of questions and stuff that I didn't think were fair to us because we were both not from cities like this. So we had too much trust in people at the time, which we lost a lot of our trust for people in general after that. The pain of the kidnapping from my son has changed, and her mother, it changed our lives, it changed the way we think, it changed the way we talk, it changed the way we do everything. There's movies I can't watch today because of the pain when you see children be suffering in movies and stuff. Even today, when I call my adult children and they don't answer, I get a hollow spot right away on what's wrong, where they at. It hurts. Even if or when Junior is found, I'm sure some of the pain or a lot of the pain will go away, but there'll always be part of that pain that'll never go. And it's affected myself, my current wife, my children, and I appreciate any help that anybody can give to help to help find Junior. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Verville. Would like to reiterate that while Kevin Verville Jr. was stolen from here in Oceanside, today he could be anywhere. He turns 45 this Saturday, and after 4 decades, we believe we can find him. We're asking everyone to share his image, share his story. You could be the person to help bring him home. At this time, we will take any questions that you have.
If Kevin Jr. were to put his DNA in one of these 23andMe or DNA thing, would it match? Are the parents in there, and would a match come up?
I think that's a more appropriate question for the FBI, so I'll let him answer that.
That definitely is a potential that we're looking at. We've actually submitted some DNA recently to see if we can find similar matches and identify Kevin through that process.
From a family member, you submitted that?
Yes.
To go continuing down that path, are we talking about submitted through an Ancestry or 23andMe, or are we talking about, I can't think of the name of it, the databases that law enforcement will have?
Law enforcement through our systems.
But I'm not talking about like a CODIS, I'm talking about the one that people, GEDmatch. Something like GEDmatch where people can take their own DNA and upload it into that, and then law permission to look at that? Are you working in that database?
Right now, the DNA has been submitted to our laboratory, and so they're working on the process. Now, the details of how that will work depends on our laboratory and our policies within DOJ.
So in terms of if someone, the family has put their own DNA into the commercial places, the ancestries, the 23andMe's.
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know about the family.
Can you talk a little bit about how common or uncommon stranger abduction is? And were there other abductions in Southern California or anything similar that you're looking at?
So I can talk about in 1980, obviously in this area, that wasn't the norm. This case brought a lot of attention from everyone, to include the FBI and our local partners. So that's why it was such a large manhunt that took place. Since then, the FBI has submitted the profile and some of the activity that took place on this case specifically, and that's why I want to just kind of focus on the case itself. The goal here is to bring that national attention to the Verville family and Kevin. So for the purpose of that, we submitted the profile to our BAU. Our BAU conducted an assessment, and generally the folks that they focus on, and the response was that the female who potentially did the abduction could have suffered a loss of a child, or couldn't get pregnant, or some kind of trauma in their own life. I'm not saying that's justifying what happened. I'm just saying that's just generally the profile. So folks can take a look at this and also say, hey, I remember a person that looked like this that potentially lost a child or wasn't able to have a child, and they were looking for a certain child. And so they went out in the community and this horrendous act happened.
Were there any other similar approaches by a woman who could have been hurt around the same time?
Not that I've seen in the case file, or not that it's been updated to me.
Since she approached them in military housing, was that an area that was secure? Like, did she have some sort of credentials that allowed her to get onto that military housing, or was it open?
I don't believe it was secured housing. I think it was just military, generally military folks that were housed in that area.
Do you have any reason to believe that Kevin is in San Diego County, or could he be anywhere?
I think he could be anywhere. I think Kevin, and if we focus on Kevin being anywhere, we bring that public attention to anyone looking at that photo or this one, being able to give us that information. I don't want to focus just in San Diego saying that this person was here. Clearly in 1980, there was a lot of focus and attention that was put on trying to locate him. Right now, I would say he could potentially be anywhere.
We know that the abductor spoke Filipino.
I believe from the background that I was receiving that she did some familiarity with the language, or some indication that they may have traveled to the Philippines.
But she herself was Caucasian.
Appeared to be. That's the likeliness that you see. It appeared to be Caucasian, yes. Tony?
Sir, Kevin Sr. mentioned that the woman appeared to be pregnant. You were talking about that this woman may have recently lost a baby. She was in a state of mind where she wanted to recover a baby. Do you think that possibly the woman faked the pregnancy to look as though she was pregnant?
I think anything is possible. I think to rule out anything would put us at a disadvantage. Did they fake that look so that they could empathize with Kevin's mom? Possibly. Could it be that it was the look after they lost the baby? That could also be a possibility. But the key is, if someone remembers seeing that likeliness and that look on a female, or even in the area that they saw her and they recognize that, I think that would add benefit to our investigation. That's why I was saying there's no tip that's small, right? It's the totality of the circumstances. We'll look at those and see if we can get to the bottom of what happened.
Just to be clear, the DNA efforts are not complete yet.
They are not, no.
And if Junior was arrested for a crime, for example, would that come up in match as well?
I think right now it's too early for me to tell. That again depends on the way we've submitted the evidence, the DNA samples, and how that would look.
You think the baby was taken to live a life with someone else, not taken? You believe he's alive today?
I think what the message I want to say is that I'm hopeful, right? I want to think that there's a positive out there. I want to think that What this person did, 100% illegal, but I hope that they had love in their heart and Kevin is alive and well and a productive member of society. I hope he's not in our criminal justice system. I'm hoping that someone loved Kevin. They could never love him as much as his family does, but I'm hoping someone is out there. So I'm always hopeful, and I'm gonna remain that way. And one day I know Kevin will be reunited with his family, whether that's through DNA or just through grunt work by our agents and our partners.
To the reporter who brought up the 23andMe, it's an excellent question because I have friends myself who have found adopted brothers and siblings that they did not know they had. Later on, will you ask the family members maybe to take a test or try it if they haven't? I don't want to ask them right now if they've done it before, but I think that is an excellent, excellent way to go to help.
100%. I mean, the family's sitting here in the room with us, so they are getting that message, I'm sure. I think there's a likelihood that if they submit, I think a lot of these companies do find that match and try to match people. So that's something that independently that can happen. I'm not going to speak for them, but the possibility is definitely out there.
I mean, we don't know, maybe he received one at Christmas one day and did it himself, you know? I mean, it's just fascinating.
100%.
You said your detectives are going to do other means as well. Can you kind of talk about some of those other means other than just relying solely on DNA? But do you have leads? Is there stuff out there?
That's why we're here. No, we don't have any leads right now, and we're hoping that this is going to pump some life into the investigation. So the leads that we have right now obviously lend us here. And that's why we need the public's help. We need that extra boost from the public in order to be able to tie some of the pieces together and figure out what happened and or where Kevin is today.
Does somebody know how many siblings and half-siblings Junior has?
Do you know, Angeline? Do you know that?
I do. Well, I just want to make sure I get it right. Go ahead, Angelica. You can just say.
So he has 2 full siblings, 1 half sibling.
No.
You mentioned the woman having a tattoo on her arm, on her hand.
Yeah.
Did the baby have any type of birthmark or moles or anything that maybe is identifiable?
No, ma'am.
To Angeline, is there a percentage of how many children are found within the city? Like maybe Junior is very close by. Do you have a statistic for that? A percentage of how many children are found very close, like Elizabeth Smart, for example. She was found right in the same area. That sort
So
of
most children are found, but let me just speak to. Okay, at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, we have researched and worked with families and tracked infant abductions for years. And most of them are found, they're reunited somehow. Right now, we have about a dozen infant abduction cases that are still open. Kevin Verville Jr.'s case is one of those. And I think it's important to mention that investigators at the time, if you look at some of the old newspaper clippings, if you do the research, what was the motive back then? And the investigators had said they thought this was not a random act, right? That this woman, they came up with this composite sketch because dozens and dozens of people in that apartment complex saw this woman. She went door to door, talked to many different neighbors, and at the time, what that told investigators is that she was baby shopping, so to speak. Right? That she was knocking on doors until she could find the specific baby that she was looking for, which was under 6 months and part Filipino. And Mr. Mashrefi mentioned this earlier, but some of the neighbors said that she spoke a little Tagalog, Filipino language, and had mentioned being in the Philippines before. It depends on, what witness reports you read, but there is mention of that. And so again, back then, investigators thought everything was guiding to her looking for a specific type of baby, not a random act. It's an astounding number. We did read that in the old documents that she had talked to. Sometimes it says 20, sometimes it's 40. Either way, it's correct to say this woman had talked to dozens and dozens of people in that housing complex. And that said to investigators at that time, that she was shopping for a specific baby. She knew what she had in mind, and she was not going to stop until she found it.
What was she asking about when she was knocking on the doors?
So she was posing as a social worker. She said her name was Sheila, and she said she was with an organization called HELP. And she was offering this program to low-income military families, helping with diapers, milk, formula, and even money. And so she apparently said that to several people in the complex. There were many babies, many families there. So,
And no one else said, did anyone else say, hey, I'm interested in that, help,
I believe so. I believe there were people who were interested, right? But I think the key is that she kept knocking on doors until she found the baby that she was looking for. So it's possible that many people, 20 other families, said, yes, I'll be a part of that program. And if she wasn't looking for a specific baby, she would have stopped and said, okay, this is family number 1. I got it. I'll leave and do exactly what the scenario was. But she didn't. She kept on knocking on doors. There were many people at the time who she wasn't worried about being seen. So that also says, was this a disguise? Was this a wig? These glasses, right?
And the first person that she had said, please get in my car, that you are aware of, was Kevin's mom.
Correct.
And we believe that's because she saw the baby and she said, that's the baby I want.
That's the conclusion that investigators made at the time. Yeah.
Kevin had jaundice. Was he in need of medical attention still?
Mm-hmm. So really, he had spent extra days in the hospital. He was abducted at 17 days old, but he really had only been home for about a week or so because of that jaundice. Yeah. Anybody else?
It was just happenstance that she was offering help and that particular family had just said, okay, yes, we would like to get some help. Those are separate, entirely different deals.
I'm not sure I understand your question, but here's the deal. Like I think this was her ruse, right? Her name, maybe it was Sheila, maybe it wasn't, but there was no organization. Of course, investigators checked around. She was not with a local organization called HELP there, and they hadn't sent anybody out to this military housing complex. The whole thing was a fake.
Do you know what time span the 20 or 40 knocks on the doors were? Like, how long was she in the complex searching around?
A couple of days. It depends on who you talk to, but at least there was the one day when she was looking for families, talked to a lot of families, and there's the second time she comes back. So the first time she's there, she approaches the Verville family, right? They said, great. She says, I'll be back. She comes back the second time and says, can you come with me to the office now? We are ready to accept you into the program. Whether or not she talked to people before this first day, that's unclear. It's very possible.
And some witnesses saw her with glasses and other witnesses saw her without, or is that just what they did back at the time?
I think there are witness reports that say both, either way.
What would you like her to know if she happens to see this and starts to feel the guilt of taking some family's baby?
Well, a lot of time has passed, and I think I don't want to speak for the family, but the goal is to get Kevin Verville Jr. back, at least to meet his family. It's very possible, like Mr. Mashrefi said, he had a wonderful life, because if she took this baby to raise as her own, it's because she wanted a baby, and she We believe she did that. We believe she raised this baby as her own. And so, after all this time, it's really about doing the right thing and just letting this family have some peace. And so I would encourage her to come forward and let's just, as a mother now for her for more than 40 years, she would hopefully understand the pain that this family is feeling and come forward.
The new development here is that Kevin's sister really pushed for this. She's the one who reached out and started pushing, and then and now it's his birthday, and is that why we're doing it?
Yes, and so that's what started everything, because she had questions and all the balls were in motion. And at the National Center, this is one of the things we do to help in cold cases. Yeah.
I just want to say that Sterling Homes was a 644-unit complex, so it was a very large military housing complex inside the city limits of Oceanside. So there was a lot of families to choose from. The particular area that she chose was and I lived in Sterling Homes in 1983. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great.
That corner was predominantly a lot of Filipino families were living in that area.
Christy, I think you should come up here to help with the mic, because this is Christy Hawthorne. I referenced her earlier. She's with the Oceanside History Center here, and she, of course, the history is what she knows about.
I don't have anything to add to that,
Yeah.
but again, just to say that Sterling Homes was a military housing complex within the city of Oceanside. It was federal housing, and it was for the lower enlisted families. My husband, I think, was a Lance Corporal. It was 644 units. It was a very large military housing complex. So it wasn't just one apartment that they went to with 8 to 20 units. So she might have been very familiar with Sterling Homes. She might have even perhaps maybe lived there at one time, and maybe she knew where to go. That's all I have to say about the Sterling Homes complex, but just to give you an idea of how large this complex, it doesn't exist any longer for those, but it might ring a bell for someone watching this that might have lived in Sterling Homes, because again, it's kind of lore here in Oceanside, although it no longer exists. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, it's approximately 2 miles east of here. It's been completely torn down, but it's on the northwest corner of Mission Avenue and Canyon Drive. But the whole complex was torn down, I believe, in 1987.
It was considered off-base, right?
Off-base housing.
And it was non-secure?
It had an MP, it had a military, because you had to have a sticker on your car, but she very well could have, if she said, I'm here as a social worker, the MP probably would have waved her in, but you did have to have a sticker at the time. Yeah. Thank you.
And you want to tell them there's pictures?
Oh, and there are pictures. We do have a picture of an aerial picture on our wall of Sterling Homes. You can see how large it is, and we also have a close-up of the two-story complex, because I believe the Verville family lived in the two-story. There was one-story complex and there was two-story. So we have a photo of images of the examples of that.
I have one last question for you. You had talked about there's only half a dozen infant abduction cases.
There's about a dozen. I'd have to go back and get the actual number. I don't have that in front of me, but I would say roughly about a dozen infant abduction cases that are still unsolved that the National Center is aware of, that is in our database.
You mean historically?
Yes, correct.
So that underscores how incredibly rare it is.
That's correct. Yeah. At the National Center, we study a lot of things when it comes to infant abductions. And I know that Mr. Mashrefi had talked about BAU and the profile. We can give you some information about what the National Center sees and the profile of an infant abductor, but we have that. And so it's a very interesting part of the story. So, thank you all for being here. We appreciate you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. And we do have a video that the National Center is sharing. We can share that link with you. We have a blog, we have elements for your stories, but again, we appreciate you being here. It's very important. And as Mr. Mashrafi said, we want to think positive. We want to be hopeful. And we've seen it over and over again where these decades-old cases can be solved. So that's what we're thinking that can happen here today. All right. The National Center video?
Yes.
Yes, I'll give you the information. Yeah, yes. Mm-hmm.
I think it's important so that they all look at the video. It's very interesting and sweet to see the couple with the baby.
Yes. Okay, so the video I mentioned, the National Center has put together our own package for your use. It will be on our, we'll share it with you, but as Maria mentioned, we do have archive photos. It includes video interviews from local news stations from 45 years ago and old pictures from the family, an interview with Mr. Mashrafi and family members, and some perspective as far as infant abductions go. So we hope you will either use all of that video or portions of it. You're welcome to it.
I would like to say that.
Come back, come back.
I did want to clarify, my dad, my mom, and I are all on Ancestry. I am on 23andMe, and we have submitted it to some of the other smaller commercial companies.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.